Hello and welcome back to the Property Pilot. Today we're talking about buy-to-let properties for first-time buyers and first-time landlords. Coming up. Welcome back. My name is Marco. I'm a property investor, developer and mentor. Today we're talking about buy-to-let property for first-time landlords. Really important video. We're going to detail the process from start to finish and everything that you need to think about for first-time landlords wanting to get into buy-to-let property. So we need to touch upon a couple of things before we can talk about this process. First of all, you need to define what is your goal, number one, and that is really, really important. Is your goal to say earn £3,000 per month profit from a portfolio of buy-to-let properties? Or is your goal maybe to amass a certain value of properties over the 10 or 20 years? Maybe you want to hit, say, £2 million worth of property within 10 or 20 years. So really important, what is your goal? And you need to define that goal before you can proceed onto the other things that we're going to talk about very shortly. Okay, so let's assume you have decided on your goal. Great. Now we need to come on to strategy, because there are lots and many different types of strategies in buy-to-let property, but we need to choose maybe one or two strategies that are going to help you accomplish your goal. So for example, let's just say you've decided that your goal is to obtain £3,000 per month in profit from buy-to-let property. Great. And that's what a lot of people get into buy-to-let property for, to earn a relatively passive way of making a living. So your goal is to earn £3,000 per month in property. Well, there are a handful of strategies that are best suited for this particular goal. The first, obviously, being the income investing strategy, where we're investing in properties primarily for income. And what we're really focused on is maximizing our cash every single month, the rent minus the mortgage minus other costs. And that's really where we're focused on. What we're not so much focused on is the capital appreciation and the capital values of those types of properties increasing, say, above average over time. For example, another type of strategy we may want to undertake if we're really concerned about the value of our portfolio over the 10, 20 years. Well, as I just alluded to, the capital growth type strategy may be best suited, where we're buying properties in areas where we think the capital appreciation will be greater than average. Maybe we're taking a hit on the yield slightly, a hit on the income, so that monthly income that we're generating isn't as much as what it could be in the income investing strategy. But what we're really concerned about is the value of these properties over time and maximizing the growth of our portfolio. So I hope this very brief explanation helps you understand strategy, and it's really important you define your goal and then choose the relevant strategy to help you achieve your goal. Okay, so enough said about goals and strategies. Let's come on to the process, the full process from start to finish for first-time buyers, first-time landlords coming into buy-to-let property. Number one, we need to find the deal. Sounds really obvious, right? So we need to find a potential buy-to-let property to purchase. And there are lots of ways how we can do this. And I've got a really good video that details lots of different ways how to find property, which I'll link to in the description. But there are a few main points, and we'll touch upon this very briefly. So of course, you can check the traditional online portals, Rightmove and Zoopla, and try and find a property that fits the criteria from what you're looking at. So let's say, for example, your strategy is income investing. You're really concerned about high yielding properties to maximize that monthly cash flow. So again, you're going to be looking in high yield areas, maybe north of the UK in certain target areas, and you'll be looking at properties around a certain price point and looking to essentially view those properties and hopefully offer upon them. So, you need to find a good deal through Rightmove, through Zoopla. Maybe you can go direct to the vendor, and again, you want to watch the video that I referenced earlier to find more ways and more tactics and more processes on how to obtain properties at really good price points that aren't on the open market. So let's assume we found a property and we think it's going to hit the bill. Well, we need to work out the math. What is this property worth? And a lot of people take the asking price and think the property is worth the asking price. Most of the time, the property is not worth the asking price. The true value of the property may be below the asking price. Sometimes it's even above the asking price. So it's really important that you do your own due diligence and do your own math and do your own research to put an accurate figure on what you think that property is worth. Almost disregard the asking price in its entirety and just work on the math. What is this property worth? And there's different ways how we can do this. And again, I'm going to release a video shortly that goes into really good detail about how we can work out what a property is worth. But very briefly, here are a couple of techniques. First of all, you can look at houses that have already sold on that street and look at the recent sales. And if they're comparable sales, maybe it's the same type of house, the same size of the house, the same condition, then you'll be able to have a good idea of what that property is worth. Secondly, you can look at price per square foot in that area. And again, now you've got the size of the property, you can multiply that and see if the asking price is somewhat near the value based on a pound per square foot measure. So we've assumed we've now got a good understanding what the property is worth. Now, how much will the property rent for? So again, a nice easy way to do this is get the postcode of the property, type it into Rightmove to let, increase the radius slightly, maybe about a quarter of a mile, and really important, make sure you've ticked the box that says let agreed, and you'll be able to see what similar types of properties are being rented out for, and you'll be able to get a figure on what you think you can rent this property out at. Now, a little tip here, if hardly any results comes up, this can be a huge positive, because sometimes what they suggest is there is so little supply in that area and it's crying out for rental accommodation. But that being said, if your property is in the middle of nowhere, maybe there's a reason why supply is low or almost zero. Likewise, if demand is really high, and maybe you see 100 plus results pop up when your radius is a quarter of a mile, this maybe suggests that supply is greater than demand and maybe you need to find a different area to invest in. So before we come on to actually booking a viewing for the property, if you are undergoing the capital growth strategy, where we're really concerned about the value of these properties over time, not so much the income, then it's really important that you ensure that these properties that you find have really strong fundamentals. And what I mean by fundamentals are things like there are really good schools nearby, there are great access to transport links, there are great employers in the area, there are a high number of owner occupiers that own their own home on that street and in nearby streets, and there's really low crime. These 5 different factors and these 5 variables are really important to determining strong fundamentals, because if all these 5 areas are met, it's highly likely that this area is going to be a good area and one that's going to appreciate higher than average over time. So let's come back to the numbers. We know what this property can potentially rent for. We've got an idea on how much this property is worth. Well, do the numbers work for you? And again, I'm going to go into more detail. I'm going to release another video about how to analyze property deals in a bit more depth. But essentially, if you're undergoing the income investing strategy, you can very simply do this by working out yield. So yield is the annual rent of the property over, say, the purchase price. And again, this will check out a percentage, and depending on where you are in the UK and what your expectations are on a good investment, you can understand what yield this property could potentially deliver, and does this yield hit your criteria. So let's move on. Let's assume we're happy with the numbers. Well, of course, we need to view this property. So call the agent, book in the viewing, and go see the property. Now, quick little tip here, I'd only view the property if the numbers work or near enough work. If you're miles off, don't waste your time. There's no point booking in a viewing because it's highly unlikely that this property is going to be acquired. But that being said, if you are somewhat near the numbers, you're not quite on them at the purchase price or the asking price or near the asking price, but you think maybe if I was to negotiate a bit further and get a good offer and the math then works, then yeah, I think it's worth your time viewing that property. So let's say we viewed the property and we've understood maybe how much we need to invest, if anything, to get it to the standard that we want to get it to rent it out. Well, if the numbers all work, then of course we need to put forward an offer. Now, if you've actually viewed the property and you think, wow, well actually in person it's worse than what I thought, it's going to take maybe an extra £3,000 or £4,000 or £5,000 to refurb from what I had forecast, well, of course change your figures to reflect this, and if your figures still work and you can maybe put in a lower offer to reflect this, then great. Again, another really important tip, in fact this is probably the most important tip of the video I'm about to give now, so really do listen carefully. If you view the property and in fact you need to spend an extra 10,000, 20,000, whatever that figure is to make it work, please do put that forward, that offer, even though this offer may be £20,000 less than what you had forecast. Put forward the offer. Okay, most of the times it's going to be rejected, but maybe that 1 in 10, that 1 in 15, that 1 in 20 times that offer is going to be accepted, and you're going to get a really good deal where others would have just written off that property and thought, well gosh, this property needs so much work, I don't really want to bid on the property, my expectations are really mismatched. But put an offer on every single property you see. You never know what can happen, and it's a numbers game. Some of them are going to be a yes. So how to put forward an offer on a property, and again, I've got a video, one of the very first videos I released on this channel when the production quality was extremely poor, and was all about how to offer on a property, so maybe I'll link to that for those of you that don't mind watching a very poor quality video. However, I will update this video in due course and expand in a bit more detail on how to put forward an offer on a property, and this is an area that I specialise in. I really help my clients negotiate a really good discount in property and property acquisitions, but we want to be putting an offer on that property and in an attempt to try and secure it. Now, what do you you need to put forward the offer? Well, there are a couple of things. Obviously, you need the figure itself, it goes without saying, but you need some supporting documents to help give your offer credibility and to help push forward your offer so the agent can do all they possibly can to sell this to the vendor. So first of all, you need proof of funds. So if you're buying cash or mortgage, you need a screenshot maybe of your bank statements to show that you can afford to pay the deposit, or buying in cash the full amount in cash. It shows that you're a serious buyer. Next, if you're buying with a mortgage, you need a decision in principle or an agreement in principle to show that you have already qualified for the mortgage. And again, speak to your mortgage broker here. He or she can give you this. We also then need a copy of our ID and some form of proof of address. It could be something like a council tax letter or utility letters to show that your name and your address matches that on your ID. And lastly, we'll need the name of the purchaser. Are you purchasing in your personal name or are you purchasing in a limited company? And I've got a great video that details the pros and cons to each. I will link it in the description, and one that if you haven't yet invested in property, really important that you decide on the structure of your property acquisitions and your property portfolio, whether that being in a personal name or limited company. So do watch this video. It's really important because if you choose the wrong structure, you're going to be paying far more in tax. Let's assume we've got this offer accepted. Well done. Congratulations on acquiring your first property, or at least getting the offer accepted on your first property. But there are a few more things we need to do to see this through to completion. First of all, of course, we need to get a mortgage on the property if we are buying with a mortgage. So if you don't already have a mortgage broker, head to my website. I can introduce you to the people and the brokers that I know, I like, I use, and I trust. www.ms7.uk and click on Use Our Team. You want a really good mortgage broker that is experienced and knows exactly your circumstance and can offer the best possible advice. Now, first of all, do not worry too much if you're a first-time landlord and you don't have any property and you don't have any buy-to-let property. Nowadays, there are lots of lenders that are willing to lend to first-time buyers and first-time landlords. So don't be too worried here. So let's move on from mortgages now and let's come on to the conveyancing process, the legal process. So of course, you need conveyancers and solicitors to help you acquire this property. And do not go to these websites where you pay a really small fixed fee and they'll do all the conveyancing for you. They're essentially like a factory and they churn out tens of thousands of cases every single month, but they don't give these cases the proper attention and due diligence that a property acquisition deserves. You should be paying for a solicitor and a conveyancer to add value to your property acquisition process and to highlight potential issues of owning this property, say 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years down the line. So it's really important that you're paying for a solicitor that adds value and not is necessarily just ticking a box for the purpose of purchasing a property. And again, if you're looking for a solicitor and a trusted conveyancer, head to my website. I can put you in touch with the ones that I know, I like, I use, and I trust. Okay, so let's assume that some time has elapsed and we've now completed on the deal. Well, congratulations, you've completed on your very first buy-to-let property, and I hope this is the first of many to build up your portfolio. So you've picked up the keys from the agent, you've gone to the property, and now maybe you have to let it, or maybe it's already tenanted. Who knows? Congratulations. So this is the full A to Z process on buy-to-let properties for first-time buyers and for first-time landlords. I hope this video has been somewhat useful in giving you some inside tips and tricks to help grow your property portfolio. If you are looking to get into the buy-to-let world and to invest in property, I would love to help. I'm very passionate about helping people get into property. Head to my website, ms7.uk, and book a call with me. For those of you that watch the channel, you know that every Tuesday and Thursday at 2 o'clock, I publish a full-length video all about property and property investing to help you be successful in your property investing journey. For those of you that haven't already subscribed, YouTube tells me the majority of people watching this video are not subscribed. Please do consider subscribing. It does mean a lot to me, and I'm running a competition. Once we get to 10,000 subscribers, one lucky subscriber will be chosen at random and will be flying in the cockpit with me around Yorkshire, and we'll be sharing that flight experience together. So I really hope you enjoy your day and the best of luck with your property investing week. Bye-bye.